Good evening.
Hey, how are you?
About time you showed up.
Yeah. I know.
So you guys having a party down there or what?
We actually have stuff to do, you know? What can I say?
Oh, you guys.
Hi, Zach.
How are you, Joe?
All right.
Good, good.
So you guys are partying down there, huh?
Oh, we were vaping. You're regulating license for alcohol. We're just boozing and smoking.
Hey, it sounds like a good time to me.
Yep. We're doing.
Just regulating.
We're just regulating.
We have another full house.
Although it's half firefighter.
No,
Although then there might be carryover from what you guys were doing before you're having you're having a hearing about the costs for assessing.
that'll come up, but no.
Okay.
I mean, we started early to try to avoid this.
Okay,
But we finished about 10 after.
gotcha.
I'm surprised by all these people again.
Me too. Especially once it got out that it was a small data center.
Yeah, but it's not on the agenda.
Yeah, I know.
No.
That was-
It's not on the agenda and it won't be for a month or two. I think Frank did it.
Frank did it. What'd you do, Frank?
You and I gotta talk.
What did I do? Did? I might not have. Sorry.
And a couple extra thoughts based on that, I don't chat, so.
Okay. Oh, yeah, because Bobby responded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Mayor's Mick Fisher, can you hear me?
We can hear you, Mick.
Okay, thank you.
You ready for your campaign? I started getting those
I-
flyers.
I had 6 of them.
Yeah, I'm probably about there now, yeah.
Yeah.
Already bought everything I need. See how it goes. Got door hangers, signs.
Good evening. Hello, good evening. I'd like to call the City of Beaver Dam Common Council meeting for February 16th to order. First item is the roll call.
Bierman.
Here.
Bonnet.
Here.
Burnett.
Here.
Furry.
Here.
Fisher.
Here.
Flaherty.
Here.
Gansky.
Here.
Hiley. Here. Keel. Here. Olson. Perkins. Wild. Here. Yads.
Here.
Sapp.
Here.
And next we will do the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silent deliberation. Next up, we are going to have our traditional informal public hearing. Before we begin, I would like to ask if there's anyone who signed up to speak who is not speaking about the data center. Okay, hang on. Francois, are you talking about the zoning? Okay, we'll have a separate public hearing about the zoning. So we'll save you until then. Yeah, yep, later in this meeting. Yep, that gets its own, because it's an ordinance, it gets its own separate public hearing. Okay, so is there anyone else? Okay, so Mr. Haft, I think we'll start with you again. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me refresh everyone's memory to the rules of the informal hearing or informal public hearing that we ask that you follow all our normal rules of meeting decorum. That means no profanity, no name calling, no unsubstantiated accusations. Please limit your discussion to 2 minutes. And the city clerk will ring the bell nice and loud so everyone hears. And when you hear the bell, you need to wrap up your comments. Council members are not allowed by law to respond, but we will be taking notes and will attempt to respond to those of you who, particularly if you want a response, I suggest you leave your email behind or your phone number. So we will start with Mr. Haft.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jay Haft. What I have here is a federal report on what happened here in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin. I asked the mayor, I said, I want copies of this for every alderman needs to read this because this is the truth, what happened here. Okay. Also, one of the biggest things is they were supposed to pay the property owners for their losses. It says it in here, 2 different spots. Okay. There's also an email in here that explains how Trent Campbell was one of the main people that they dealt with in that. Okay. And also it talks about the memorandum of understanding with removal of 17 small business owners in your community. Okay. You could develop the shoe factory, which couldn't legally be developed. It was a conspiracy to commit blackmail and fraud. It explains it all in here. They got the money, the $3.7 million, the relocation money for the small business owners, gave it to the developer with $200 million from Milwaukee. That's why I say the city has to work for the citizens of the community. And please get copies and have everyone in the city council read this. This is the truth. Okay. Normally cities try to help people. That's what it's all about. Never before in the history of America have they came out and started threatening people in your community after a flood, which I believe was actually premeditated. I believe I can prove that. A lot of it was the city could do whatever you want, just don't fix the dam, because that was the DNR's big thing. Okay. So these are some of the worst heinous crimes against the citizens of a community in the history of America. It's never happened before. I mean, you got to be come out of some sick, deranged minds to do this to the citizens of your community. There were 17 small business owners at first, then 11. Okay. They had families, husbands, wives, children, grandchildren, nephews, nieces, and stuff. These are families and folks. But make sure you get a copy of these and everyone read it. And read it twice because there's a lot to it. Very important. They were supposed to pay the people for their losses, says right in there.
Excuse me. Okay. Next up is Joyce Galitsky.
Hi, I'm Joyce Sklisky from Beaver Dam. I don't know if you guys ever thought about everybody that's on CPAP, oxygen, and BiPAP machines that need electric. When we have blackouts, who is going to survive and who's not going to survive? And all this stuff, you guys see money in front of your eyes. Our electric bill went way up. Our water bills went up. And this is not funny because you guys want 3 or 4 more of these data centers in Dodge County, and people have suffered from the smoke from Canada and California all across the United States that people have asthma and allergies. They're the ones that's gonna suffer for this. You guys need to think about what you're doing. We elected you people. So what I'm saying is you guys have to figure out what you did wrong. And we also need a meeting with you guys for the town hall. We've asked and we've asked and we asked and we don't get it. We are citizens and people live on fixed incomes in this town. And you guys are taking all the money away from the human people that elected you into office. Thank you.
Okay, next up is Angela Davis.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Angela Davis. Our family lives on Hemlock Road, across from the data center, behind Generac, and next to the refrigeration warehouse. I'm here to talk tonight about a practical zoning update that can help Beaver Dam grow responsibly while protecting the quality of life to your residential neighbors. The adoption of buffer zone standards between residential and commercial or industrial areas. Right now, when a business or industrial use is located next to homes, the zoning code for Beaver Dam relies mostly on quiet hours and complaint-based enforcement. What it does not provide is a physical separation. Things like landscaped buffers, berms, or lighting controls that prevent problems before they start. Many residents living near commercial or industrial areas experience ongoing issues, such as we are right now, with noise, bright lighting, especially from the back of Generac at night, and visual intrusion. These aren't just inconveniences, they affect sleep, property enjoyment, property value, and long-term neighborhood stability. On December 15th of 2025, I emailed all the council members and the mayor a request for noise mitigation using berms and landscaping. The proposed buffer zone amendment addresses this gap in a reasonable and balanced way. Under this proposal, commercial uses next to homes would include a landscaped buffer, and industrial uses would require a wider buffer, recognizing their greater impact. These buffer zones could include trees, shrubs, earthen berms, or fencing, depending on the site. They would also require shielded lighting directed away from homes and thoughtful placement of loading docks and mechanical equipment. The proposal does not stop development. It does not force existing businesses to rebuild, and it allows flexibility. Developers can propose alternative designs if they provide equal or better protection. It does create a clear, predictable expectation for everyone. So I respectfully ask the council to support advancing, incorporating buffer zone standards into your zoning code, and continue to hear more by open town hall meetings and proactively protect neighborhoods to reduce future conflicts. Thank you.
Next up is Miley Koczynski.
Good evening. I'm Miley Koczynski. I live downstream from the current data center development. The community has made it clear we do not want Beaver Dam to become a hub of multiple data centers. Yet additional projects are being considered even before the first one is operational. 2 minutes at a podium is not public input. There's been one evening where the mayor responded to questions. Other than that, there has been no community-wide open forum, no town hall, no meaningful opportunities for residents to ask detailed questions and receive transparent answers. Most people don't realize that data centers are not a temporary project. They lock in permanent industrial infrastructure, utility commitments, and land use patterns that outlast corporate strategy and economic cycles. Once those commitments are made, they're very difficult to reverse. And this is how rural communities are transformed without even being asked if that transformation is acceptable. Homes are not built near these facilities. Families move farther out and away. New parcels open up, and then the next project arrives in to fill those spaces. And like the second data center now being proposed in Beaver Dam. Considering 2 or 3 more before evaluating the full impact of the first signals that expansion is the goal and not careful oversight. Residents are paying attention. We are documenting impacts. We are asking questions, and we're not done. This council believes in transparency and responsible governance. Pause additional approvals, engage the public openly before irreversible decisions are made. Once the city commits to becoming a data center hub, it will be difficult to change that course, and that decision deserves far more public scrutiny than it has received. I formally request a town hall meeting. Denying your community members such an opportunity would display a complete lack of finding value in your community members. Schedule the town hall. Thank you.
Okay, next up is Francis Jennings.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to speak. I was at a council meeting weeks ago because my job schedule does not permit me to get here. I really don't have any other thing to say other than what I said the first time around, which was questions about, you know, the schedule of what's going to happen. Is there any protection that we can really rely on for those people who live like I do just off of Hemlock on Jason Drive in Trenton Township? I ask you to consider carefully the impacts that will happen in this community and the distress it will cause on the citizens here. I have heard rumors of all kinds. All I know is that the building is still going up, that the construction is underway, that the streets are intermittently blocked, and as I said before, I have lived here for 37 years, and the house sits 1 mile from where the construction is. I ask you to reconsider and to be more transparent, and if someone could give me a clue as to where I could get information on the progress of what's going on, either here in the city making determinations about the coming of the data center itself, and just find a way to get more information so that I can be better informed. I thank you for your time.
Okay, next up is, oh, I am sorry, I cannot, is it Steve? Is there a Steve? Oh, okay. You shortened your signature, sir.
Did I? Well, it's always easier to spend other people's money than your own. There's some people on this council that have been bragging about how Meta is paying for some of our local and sponsoring some of our local events. That's awesome. Whose money are they really using? These companies can pay for their infrastructure, but it's us in the end, the consumers, that are paying for it. These energy costs are all coming back on us one way or the other. This proposal for a second data center, I am against, and I think should never happen. This data center the first data center had no out. There's no out in it for us. It was poorly negotiated. It was very poorly negotiated, and we were kept in the dark. And I know some of you regret it now that you did allow this to come into our community, but adding it into TID 7 hides that tax money from the school district. It hides it if you put it into TID 10. We don't see any of that tax money back into the general fund until 2046. Meta says, we'll pay for the infrastructure as long as you reimburse us for it with these tax credits. So in the end, we're paying for it. There's no out in the proposal that you guys put together that I've seen. Now I know Trent, he got a new pair of, I won't say, but you know, it's the people that are profiting from these things love it. The people like me that have to live next to it, because I know that I live closer to it than any of you. The people with it in their backyards, we hate it. We hate seeing this done to our community. Oppidan, they're salivating over this. They love this. $31,000 an acre. I bet they'd give us another $5,000 an acre to get it. They're a real estate developer. Shoot, that's cheap to them. So no, and I second Maylee's proposal to have a town hall. Thank you.
Next up is Shanna Katz.
Hi, my name is Shanna Kotze. Feel like I was just here not long ago, because I was, as we were talking about the proposal of the first data center that we didn't have a say in. I live on County Road W. I'm 2 miles from the first one. I'm 1 mile from the second one, and it's getting closer and more uncomfortable as it grows closer. I have a salon built off of my house, and my husband has an electrical business, and he knows how power works and the reality that our energy bills are already going up, and more of that will increase as the data center continues to move closer and operate. Since we had no say in the first data center going up, at the very least, we're hoping there could be some sort of compensation for the energy bills or something to help people who live as close as we do. As a salon owner doing hair all week, I'm concerned about the blackouts that could happen. So we're looking into a generator, another additional cost that will be arising. Our driveway got beat up pretty good and torn apart, as did all of our neighbors the last several months, which made it issues for clients to be able to come to get their hair done, and which has caused issues for our neighbors who just blacktopped, and constantly there are machines in our yard and our neighbor's yard, makes it difficult to go around and even use our driveway. We had large, beautiful trees taken down that we didn't have any choices about. But most concerning to me, however, is the frequencies that are not just going to be coming from one data center, but possibly two, and what they are emitting into our bodies and our children's bodies, and their irreversible effects to our health that comes with that. We live way too close to this for comfort. So I think we need to raise a unified voice and stand up for our city, because it's clear no one is going to do that for us. As this continues, we and other good people of the community aren't going to stick around, and then what will be left of the community itself? Thank you.
Next up is Mark Brzezinski.
Hello, Mark Brzezinski. I spoke a couple weeks ago. I emailed every one of you on the 13th my thoughts about the data center and the new one being proposed and some other findings. I'm here to put my face to that email so each and every one of you knows who I am. And I'm formally asking for a town hall. I'm thirding that request for a town hall meeting, because I don't pretend to know everything each and every one of you know. And I know each and every one of you don't know what I know. So I request that we sit down, talk about this, educate all of us. Everyone needs an education on this, because not one of us is an expert at what we're dealing with right now. Not one of you lived close to it. You're all in the city. My house is right there. It's encroaching. You annexed 600 acres into the city of Beaver Dam. What's next? I ask that we sit down. Knowledge is power. Educate ourselves. Let's figure it out. If I'm wrong, if you're wrong, we can agree to disagree. That's democracy at work. But we need to sit down together as a community, because it's just not city residents. It's the rural residents that make this community, that make Beaver Dam strong. I've lived here my entire life, 52 years, my grandparents from the 1800s. This community has raised myself, my children. And I don't want to leave this community, but those thoughts are in my head now. Let's make an educated decision based on real facts, not non-disclosure agreements that no one knows about, because that's just wrong. Not one of you guys would take a real estate agreement if you didn't know what was going on, but we did it here. Let's not do it a second, a third, a fourth, a fifth time. So please, I would like to meet with you guys in a town hall meeting. Let's get some answers. Let's educate all of ourselves. Let's become better than our past. Thank you.
Excuse me. Next up is Sarah, is it Zarling?
Hello, my name's Sarah Zarling and I'm your friendly feisty neighbor from Watertown. I have been here supporting the residents of Beaver Dam and the town of Trenton since September. And I just have to say again, I always shoot straight and respectfully. And so I have to say, I've also been on the ground in Port Washington. And at this point, if there's a data center proposal or project in the state of Wisconsin, I'm either directly or indirectly involved. So I've really been talking to residents on a very extensive basis. And what I'm learning is for the people who live closest to the construction, this approving a project like this is the most cruel thing you can do to them. My heart absolutely goes out to them, how their lives have been upended. And I wonder if part of why you were able to kind of be so loosey-goosey about approving this project is because it's not in the city of Beaver Dam and you aren't the ones who have to deal with the fallout. And so I just really feel very sorry for the people who are in the town of Trenton and are the most exposed to this, and they're being the most ignored. And I just really feel like that's wrong. I'm also concerned with the language that I heard being used at the last Common Council meeting when the second project was being discussed. The words that were being used were like when and not if, which makes it sound like it's already a done deal. And so, I just, in the spirit of making sure that we're being transparent, since that didn't happen the first time around, as much as some of you may want to argue that you were transparent, you've continued to have your residents come up in droves and say no. And community members have raised their hands by the dozens in our community meetings and said they didn't know about it. So we can agree to disagree. I also support the requests for a town hall. You owe them that. Thank you.
Next up is Rob Kozinski.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. A while back, you had a meeting that you did over at the library. And I think we got a lot out of it, and I just want to say thank you. We really appreciate it. You even stayed longer than the meeting went. And what I'd like to basically request is, can we have another meeting where the members of the council, you yourself and anyone else that's involved would be willing to answer questions that the public has to ask. You guys take a lot of notes and you try hard to get back to us, but it'd be really nice to have a meeting where we actually get the answers on the spot and we can ask follow-up questions to those answers. Before we consider another data center, I think it's really important that we bring this out into the public and not make the same mistake that we made at this data center where there wasn't enough public input. And I formally ask you tonight to please schedule that town hall meeting. Thank you.
Next up is Gabrielle Reyes.
Hello, my name is Gabriel. I live here in Beaver Dam. You all know this at this point. Today, I want to address something that Mr. Trent Campbell said at the end of the previous meeting. He said that he has gotten most of his information regarding the data center directly from Meta, and that he would be happy to tell us everything that they have told him. If I'm being perfectly honest, I have no interest in hearing the official word from Meta because they have done nothing to earn my trust or the trust of anyone else in this town. Meta has a long history of being shady and untrustworthy, from poor treatment of its staff, specifically its moderation team, who have high expectations forced onto them, and if they fail even just 2% below those expectations, they're met with immediate termination. Those same moderators, mind you, are exposed to hours upon hours of violent and disturbing imagery, ranging from animal abuse to footage of people committing suicide, and even CSAM. Look up at your own risk. They've also been directly linked to the amplification of hate speech and Islamophobia, Islamophobic propaganda that resulted in the Rohingya genocide in Myanmar and Tigray genocide in Ethiopia. The list continues from there. From its origins as a misogynist tool to rate the attractiveness of the women Mark Zuckerberg went to college with, to allowing white supremacist groups to rise and thrive with little to no scrutiny, to even allowing the spread of misinformation regarding the COVID-19 pandemic, which personally affected my own family. These are the people you let come into our home and build a monstrosity in our backyard. I respect the people behind me, but I won't give you the benefit of the doubt like these people will. I also want that town hall meeting. The people deserve their chance to be heard. God bless you all, and God bless Beaver Dam.
Okay, next up is Wayne Oyen.
Howdy, I'm Wayne Oyen at Grant Street in Beaver Dam here. I want to talk about a couple of things. Number one, yeah, I'm against the any current and newer data centers up and coming, and for the town hall meeting. I want to talk about a couple of things I saw here. Beginning of the year, we had a bunch of people here, and at the end of that, we were allowed to have Larry, the administrator, come and talk with a group of us over here, in which Prescott Balch talked about the TID. I'd like to talk about that, but I don't have time. What I saw after that was a little bit more disconcerting to me. And we had a guest I'd never met before, Clint Keeler, I think his name is, Kim. He was the last person to talk, and he talked about the Constitution. And I'm like, okay, well, this is kind of interesting. And kind of telling you guys you're doing a couple things wrong according to the state constitution. After that, he came over here. There was about a dozen of us, and 15 of that was Larry and Prescott speaking, but Clint got in there a little bit. When they were done chatting, Clint walked over here. I was standing right here, walked behind me, and then Larry was kind of with them. And then something caused me to turn around. All of a sudden, I heard Larry quite distinctly state, but basically Clint made another comment about something against the Constitution, the way you guys are conducting your business here. And he says, oh, well, go ahead and sue us. We have a lawyer on retainer. We have money and we have insurance. If that's a joke, that's pretty freaking shitty. All right. You know, I get we want to joke around a little bit. The next thing happened the last council meeting here. I sat right there as residents spoke, and some of them misspoke a little bit. I understood the spirit of what they were saying. And I kind of winced a little bit, like that's the wrong word here, wrong word there. At the end of the meeting, there was a conversation, a couple parts of it about the data centers and whatnot. And someone, one of the residents said something, oh, about the hum from the data center. He's talking about the construction noise. And someone had to sit up here and then clarify with whoever was standing here, say, is the data center up and running? No, it's not. So is there a hum? No, there's not a hum. And they kind of chuckled about that. There was another comment that was made by somebody about water, and that was taken at home. You guys had a nice little laugh, somebody at our residence. That's really in poor taste, disgusting. I mean, it's one thing, you know, we're trying to, you're trying to get our frickin' respect here, right? And I sat right here and watched this shit happen. And I don't normally speak out of frickin' line, but that was out of line.
Yeah, I'm sorry, your time's up. And last up is Cindy Vanderhoven, sorry.
I've been to a few of the meetings and I've been following this very closely. I live in the town of Beaver Dam, about a mile away from the destruction site. I first reached out to the council members on October 27 to express my concerns regarding the health impacts of the data center as a cancer survivor with a compromised immune system. A few members responded, thank you, while others replied, I don't represent you. On November 26, Mr. Gansky replied after several emails back and forth that the mayor would be reaching out to me. To date, I have not had been contacted, and I would like to formally request a town hall meeting. I would also like to ask each and every one of you council members to please tour the destruction site. We're seeing and living this every day, and I really don't think that you are witnessing what we are witnessing firsthand. And I think if you take a drive by there, you're going to kind of understand where we're coming from. So thank you for your time.
Oops, excuse me, that ends the informal public hearing portion of our meeting. Next up, we have announcements. Council members, any announcements? Okay, seeing none. We're going to move on to next item, which is disposition of the minutes of our last council meeting on February 2nd. You've all had a chance to look them over. They were printed in your packet. Can I get a motion? Alder Burnett?
I'll make that motion to approve.
And a second, Alder Burnett?
Second.
All those in favor of approving the minutes, so signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes pass. Next up, we have presentations and reports. First up is a presentation by Five Bugles regarding the fire station facility study and facility and staffing recommendations.
Well, good evening. Tonight, Laura Einsnagel from Five Bugles is going to be doing the final presentation. Since the last time we met and we discussed the GIS, we've had several more meetings with Five Bugles. We've refined the conceptual designs. Several of you joined us on tours of other facilities, and I think that was probably a very good experience for you guys and got you better understanding of some of the subjects we're talking about in fire station design. And so tonight, we will go over the report. I know there's going to be lots of questions. Please ask if you have questions. Either I can answer them or hopefully Laura can, and we'll go from there.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. As a reminder, my name is Laura Einsnagel. I'm an architect for the Five Bugles design team. And as Chief said, I'm just gonna kind of go over the whole report. So next slide, please. I'm going to give, this is basically what we're going to go, just look over the timeline of where we've been, how we've gotten to where we are, give the project to date, talk about the concepts, and then what would be next. And if you were to move into some sort of a project, funding considerations that you could have as a municipality. So when we originally came to you all, we were actually hired to do an existing facilities assessment just of this facility in general, not just the fire department. We were going to do some concepts, an estimate, and then the report. It came apparent to us, though, that there was a lot of other questions that needed to be answered. So that's why we've come 2 other times in addition to this. So we came originally, gave the additional assessment of the facility. We made a recommendation to do a GIS study to make sure that we would be properly located in this fire department, potential new station. We came back and gave the presentation on that. And then since that time, as Chief said, we've done a number of concepts. We've taken a bunch of you on tours of facilities and finish up the final report. So as a reminder, if you can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. And one more. So existing conditions, just kind of reminding people of what we've went through, how we got here. So typically,
Can we just take a minute? So I know nobody back here can hear anything, but you guys good taking a minute?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
yeah, I believe,
Really bad at that.
Chief, can you ask, Chief Kreisinger, can you ask, to hold the noise down?
Oh, no, good. Should I give it just a minute? I can try and talk louder too. Okay, so I think I'm going to start. So just kind of reminding people of how we did this assessment. So basically what we did is we did a walkthrough of your existing facilities. We reviewed floor plans. We talked to staff members. In these studies, we considered the IBC, which is the International Building Code. We considered the IEBC, the existing building code, ADA, which is the America's Disabilities Act, The NFPA, which is the National Fire Protection Association, they kind of set some standards for fire departments specifically. And then we consider just contemporary features of fire stations, what is best practice, what we should have for our responders. During all that process, we consider, can this facility be renovated? If it is renovated, how do we keep operations going? Because the fire department, as we all know, is a 24/7 operation. Next slide. So essentially what we came away with was that overall our facility is undersized for our current needs. It's ineffective in terms of personal decontamination. For those of you who did do the tour of this facility, you remember how disjointed it was. It's kind of all over the place and doesn't have all the steps that we need to have. It was not designed originally for multiple genders. Originally, there was only men who worked out of that facility. Now we have multiple genders working out of it. And again, there is a lot of areas that are non-code compliant throughout the facility. Our dorms are one of the spaces that are not code compliant. They are undersized and again, do not meet code. We have a lack of visual and audible privacy throughout, a general lack of security throughout the station. We don't have any station alerting. And also we have no mental health or quiet spaces for our responders after those really intense interactions that they might have. So basically after that, we also considered the response times through the facility. How long does it take our responders to get, let's say, from this building through the maze that is the building down and across all the different apparatus we have to get to? We consider the site, the size, the orientation, the community around it, the neighborhood, site circulation. How do we get people safely out of the building and safely into the building? Overall function, the department's needs, potential future growth, costs of renovation, the ability to meet the NFPA, and then also we did look at the future of the city hall. So if we were to do any sort of fire station project on the site, how would that impact the city hall? So our recommendation at that time, again, I think this was actually back in like July, was to do the station location assessment, which we ended up doing, and we'll talk about just in a second. And then the other recommendation that we had was, in terms of a contemporary fire station, we would recommend starting over again. This facility would take a lot and would not be easy for us to renovate while maintaining operations, and the site is just not really great for what we need it to be. So then we went into our station location analysis, and again, I came probably in September to give a presentation on this. So as a reminder, what is response time? There are 3 things that we can control when it comes to response time. We can control the time it takes to get to the incident and the time it takes our responders to get through the building. So again, the maze that we have here, getting out to your apparatus bays, and then the drive time. So we always say, why does it matter? Why do seconds matter? And how do we get there? So the NFPA sets a standard, which is NFPA 1710. And it kind of dictates how long responders should take or how fast we would like our responders to get on site, both for fire and for EMS calls. And that magic number is about 4 minutes for 90% of the calls or less. So what we do then is we create, if you want to go to the next slide, we create a base map of your community. So in the pink there is everything that your fire district protects. We consider response time throughout everything: property ownership, contours, roadways, railroads, streams, rivers, federal wetlands, FEMA, adjacent properties. If there was a bridge that we couldn't pass under, we would consider those things as well throughout the course of this study. For your particular GIS study, we did 17 properties, 17 different combinations and 17 different properties. When we came actually in July, we'd only done 12. So since that time, we did more studies just to kind of narrow this down a little bit more. We looked at 1 station scenarios and 2 station scenarios, and then we compared a whole bunch of different data points. So how does it work within the city boundaries? How does it work for our actual incident locations? And the incidents that we were looking at were all of the incidents between 2022 and 2024. So basically what we came away with was 4 scenarios that we wanted to discuss, and that kind of made it into the report in a highlight manner. Everything is actually in the report in the appendix, but tonight we're going to talk about your baseline, your 1 station scenario, and then a 2 station scenario. And actually, I think we just moved on to the 1 station. Yeah. So essentially the site that rose to the top for the 1 station scenario, we call the Monarch site. I know that there was some questions in one of the one of the council meetings about, was this actually the best? And it wasn't the best in terms of response times, but it was the best that we could make available. So there's two different things we have to consider. Can we get it? What size is it? And then also, would it be a good one for our actual response time? So this one kind of rose to the top, meeting all of those check boxes. You don't currently own the property. It is rather shallow from Main Street to the parking lot to the southwest. And it's not an ideal location for a two-station scenario. So that was one of the things that really was a challenge, is how do we go between a one station or a two station, and how do we grow? So when we go to the next one, these are showing you where your actual data points are. So on the image on the far left, all the colors, we want to stay in the dark green as much as possible, because that gets us to that 4-minute response time. And again, when you get your full appendix, which I think that has already been distributed, you can look at these maps more closely. There's a lot of information in there. The center image there is a bunch of dots. Those all represent the individual incidents that you responded to in that 2-year period. So you can kind of see how many of those we were hitting. And then the yellow and green on the far right is showing a 1.5 and 2.5 mile radius from that facility, which ISO also looks at. So from your one station scenario, the big takeaway here is that we can get 43.1% of your municipal boundaries within that 4-minute mark, and 43.9% of your calls within that 4-minute mark. Again, the goal is 90%. So the next slide goes to our two-station scenario. So in our two-station scenario, it was kind of ironic because we were given the DPW site and our GIS model when we told it to find the best location for a two-station scenario. They ended up being the exact same site. So that was really great news for our side. So again, this is a city-owned property. It has excellent response times for that two-station scenario. It's not in a floodplain. It's not in wetlands. It does have access maybe from 2 sites, although on the north side there, we'd have to kind of negotiate that since it has the waste, what's that word? Yeah, drop off, the leaf drop off. Our negatives, though, is that we would want to review the soils to make sure that there is no contaminants or issues with your soil, since it had been a DPW property at one point. And then the access to the South Street would be eliminated because of that brush drop off, which I already mentioned. And then the site is no longer the full 5.5 acres. So when we first glanced at it, we were so excited. We're like, 5.5 acres, that's amazing. But unfortunately, it's not truly 5.5 because parts of it are taken away for different things on the property. Next slide. So this is a little bit different than what we talked to you about in September. So in September, we said the best two-station scenario was actually the industrial street properties. There was 2 different ones that were included in the report. However, there seemed to be perhaps more likelihood that we might be able to purchase or obtain the commercial drive sites. So we ran the scenarios for a two-station scenario to these commercial drive sites. This is circling one on the southeast corner of commercial. Is that Forest? Remind me of that. Sorry, Green Valley. I had that wrong. And when we looked at it, though, there are a number of properties on the north side of commercial that would also be available there. So that is the number 2. So when we look at this in terms of response times, again, we want to stay in that dark green. That's where we want to be for that 4-minute response. And as you can see on the very far left, in terms of the city boundaries as a whole, we go from 43% to 56%, which is a fairly significant increase. And when you go to that center one, the actual incident time went from 43% to 67%. So it's a 14% increase by having those 2 different stations. The other part that I do want to make sure that we are aware of, or that we see, is that one on the far right, that 1.5 and 2.5 radii. It really closes the gap and gets the majority of the city within that 2.5 or the 1.5 mile limit, which again is an ISO requirement. So that was a really positive on our side. All right, so basically what we came back to at that time was just saying, what we need to understand is if we are doing a one-station scenario, we will be, having 43% coverage. You'd be oversizing a facility because you just have the one facility, and it would not be in a great location for a two-station scenario in the future. Or do we consider a two-station scenario? It helps increase coverage for the entire city. But obviously then you have two facilities, you'd have staffing for two facilities and maintenance and construction of the two facilities. So that was something that we had to consider. The feedback that we got was, until we can make that decision, we would like to see what it actually looks like and what it actually costs. So that's what we did since then. All right, so conceptual design. So essentially what concept designs are is their goal is to help you understand relationships, adjacencies, how things function and flow through. They are sized. The colors that are you see up there will be colors throughout the project, except we don't have any alternates that we have drawn at this point. But fire apparatus space, apparatus support, fire administration, training, staff, circulation, mechanical, all those things are representative. So what we want to make sure is just making sure that we understand the size, how it functions, and make sure it's going to meet your needs for your station. So, like I said, we looked at this two different ways. One is a single station scenario and one is a two-station scenario. So we're going to walk through the single station first. So the single station would be a 2-story facility with a partial basement underneath the admin side of the facility. It's about 45,000 square feet. And you can see the breakdowns there. So it's about 30,000 on the first floor, 8,500 on the second floor, and about 7,400 in the basement. When you go to the next slide, kind of zooms in here. And again, both in your report that you have, and then also in the appendix, if you look through, you'll have larger size plans of all of these. But essentially what we've done is that on the south side of this property, we've created a community zone where we'd have a training room, an accessible conference room, and a lobby space, so community can come in and they are contained to that area unless they are brought back further into the department. Along the left-hand side then, the yellow is all of our different administrative spaces that we would like to have for the department. The blue area right in the center then, that is our personal decontamination and our watch room. So the personal decontamination, those who went on the tours understand that it's a process that we go through to make sure that our responders can get clean and are able to shower in that shower within an hour per the NFPA recommendation. What we did for this one, and actually for both of your headquarters stations, both in this and the 2-station scenario, is we broke your apparatus bays up into a couple different areas. And the reason why is because you do have a lot of apparatus, and we wanted to make sure that it still made sense for both response times and then for daily use. So maintenance, how are we going to get things around? Where do things go? So in this particular one, the center red there, those are your primary response bays. So your first out, your first engines, your first ambulance, your ladder truck, all of those types of things would be in that first out space. Then you'll see a column of blue. So those would be some more of our apparatus support spaces. So like our SCBA, our self-contained breathing apparatus, our workshop, access up onto a mechanical mezzanine, that sort of thing is in the middle. And then our secondary response, so our backup ambulance, our backup engine would be in that secondary response, things that aren't used quite as frequently, or trailers, something along those lines. On the north side of the property then, the green area is showing our exercise space. And then to the left of that is a smaller garage for command vehicles, which are our smaller vehicles, such as our inspection or captain chief's vehicles. Next slide. When you go upstairs then, this is where we're proposing that you'd have the primary majority of our living quarters. We'd have our dorm rooms, our kitchen, dining, day room, and then across the way, again, we do have that mechanical mezzanine. If you guys will recall, everyone who went on the tours, this is kind of similar to Watertown, how that kind of functioned where the living quarters were upstairs and all of our admin was on the first floor. Next slide, please. So the basement, when we actually very first talked to the department about programming and talking about if we were going to have what spaces, we didn't talk about having a basement. But as we started talking more and more about design and future expansion and training and how we could keep this facility to be as efficient as possible, the idea of putting a basement in here for future expansion and for current training came about. So that's what we were doing. So the space downstairs would be, I would call it like a black box where it's just an open space until the need for it to be expanded into, the department would be able to use it for different scenario training situations. So next one. So again, this is on a site that closely corresponds with the GIS sites, but we did keep it generic just because we don't have ownership of any properties and we don't know We don't know for sure where you're going to put it. But essentially, like we've been talking about when we looked at this facility here, is we want to make sure that responders are safe. So our responders are responding to the south on the right hand or the eastern side of the property. They would have a return drive on the eastern, wrap around and return in and through for any drive-through bays. And then on the western side of the property, that's where all of our public comes in. So that's where our public parking is, our public entry, and our staff that are coming in, not for immediate response, but for day-to-day shift. So keeping them separate and making sure that everybody is safe is our number one goal. Currently, what we have drawn there in the pale green is about a 2.5 acre property. So if we were to find a different piece of property that we wanted to use, then we could, but this is about 2.5 acres. So going into the 2-station scenario, you'll see that the headquarters of the 2-station scenario is incredibly similar to your 1-station scenario floor plan, except it's been reduced. So if we can go to the next slide, it's very similar. So we have that community zone at the bottom. We have our admin going up along the west side of the property. We have our command vehicles on the north with exercise, our personal decontamination in the center, and then our apparatus bays. You'll start seeing that our apparatus bays were reduced down. That center bay had 4 originally, now it has 3, and the left-hand bay or right-hand bay has 2 where it used to have 4. Because again, a lot of those apparatus have been able to move to a second station. When we go to the next slide then, the same scenario happens. It's the same thing that we did before, have the whole living quarters upstairs with our kitchen, dining, day, and our dorms, but we have fewer of them because we are splitting our responders up over 2 stations. Last but not least, we did maintain the basement down here, again, for future expansion or for training purposes until then. So what we did here is we kept that same 2.5 acre site so you can kind of understand how much this building did shrink down, but that footprint did shrink down quite a bit. And you can start seeing that we'd have a little bit more green space around the property, or if we needed to reduce this down and not have a full 2.5 acres, we would be able to do so. So in a 2-station scenario, the satellite station then would be a much smaller facility. This would be a single story facility with just a partial mezzanine. It's about 14,000 square feet as we are currently showing it. So this one then, there really isn't much for administration. We have some officers, offices there for admin. That's what's colored in yellow, but it's right alongside of our watch room where our responders will be for day-to-day for report writing. We have our 3 apparatus bays, our decontaminations in the center, and then our exercise and dorm rooms wrap around the core of the facility. So again, a generic site since we do not own anything right now. What is shown there in the light green outline is a 2 acre site, but again, that could be flexible if we needed to flex it. But essentially what we have been concentrating on is public parking is separate, public entrance is separate, staff parking's at the north, and then response and return from the response is all on the west side of the property. Keep it separate, keep them safe. So essentially, I'm just going to flip to my page here so I can read some of these numbers. What's always interesting is, did the size of the project change after programming or after our tours? And so when we programmed it, it was about 41,000 square feet, and then you see it did increase to about 45,000. But that was because of that basement space. So if you start looking at each of the individual spaces outside of that basement, all of them started to shrink down. So we started to really double check and just really question, is this needed? Do you need that? How does this work? How does this function? How can we get smaller? When you go over to the headquarters and the satellite stations for the 2-station scenario, you can see where those numbers came in. Obviously, they're both a little bit smaller than that primary station. The question always is it a wash if you build 1 station versus 2? Is it exactly add up to be the same? They don't add up to be the same because there will be some duplications of spaces, but relatively speaking, it does reduce a fair amount. So the next question always is how much does it cost? So what we looked at is we break our budgets at this point, or opinions of probable cost, down into 5 categories. So 1 would be site acquisition. And since we don't know which sites we are going with, we've kept those all at a 0 for right now. We looked at the building construction costs, or those would sometimes be considered to be the hard costs. It's the cost of actually building the building itself. Furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So if you were to take the building, pick it up, shake it, everything inside of it that falls out, that falls into that FF&E dollar amount. Communication and technology, So that includes our response alerting systems for our departments, and then door security and things like that, that we will have, security cameras, and professional and legal fees. So when we go to the next page, which we can hang on to this one just for one more second. That one gets really hard to read, so I'll hang out here for like 30 more seconds. What was I gonna say? So basically what we're looking at for that single station scenario is about 24.4 million. And then for the total of the 2 station, it says 29.3. So I do want to say, now we can go to the next one, that we are incredibly early in this design process. And so there are a lot of assumptions that we have to make, and there are a lot of allowances and contingencies that we include in this pricing. So basically everything that is in the green, those are contingencies. So you'll see that we added in 8% inflation. I don't know when we would be trying to build a facility. So in the last couple of years, our inflation has balanced out around 8. Talking to contractors so far this year, they are anticipating inflation being between 4 and 6%. So we could go more conservative and drop that to 5. I like to be a little bit on the higher side just because I like to be a little bit more conservative. So I kept it at 8, but we can always adjust that from there. You'll see that there's a 5% design contingency because, again, we haven't really started the design process yet. We've started the concepts. We understand the shape that it will be, but we don't know all of the details yet. So as we develop this further, then that design contingency would go away. In our furniture, fixtures, and equipment, so those yellow ones, so you'll see in there, we typically do anywhere from 3 to 7% for furniture and things that go into the facility. And then again, that security line item is on there. Technology and IT, so making sure that we have proper station alerting throughout the facility, and then audiovisual needs throughout the facilities. And then getting down to the professional and legal fees, so obviously architectural fees, construction contingency, that's that green line there. So we plan, we think everything's great, we walk through, everyone loves the plans, we walk through the site, very first day, chief says, I don't want that door there, I want it over there. It's an unforeseen thing. We talked it over. We still want to move it. That's what that comes out of. So we never have to come back to move that door. That's what that green line is there. And then the yellows below are just different, again, allowances. So making sure that if we were to break ground and have bad soils, we of course will do boring samples, but just in case something happens, we have an unsuitable soils contingency. We have testing and inspections. And then we also have our utility connections to the property. What breaks my heart is when people, I don't know if anyone caught it, but when we were in Jackson, I believe it was, the chief said, we didn't have budget for furniture, and seen nodding. I don't ever want that to happen. I want everyone to know what your full package is going to be. And then you can obviously take things out as you want to, but at least we've had the conversation so you know what you're getting. All right, so the next slide, please. So what's next? So, this is a typical design process. So we're in that programming and design. I always call that phase -1. Our actual design process in architecture starts at schematic designs. That's a big picture. If you can click it one more time. So we're here, and click it one more time. A lot of our clients ask to know what would it be required for a shovel-ready project, just in case your funding is reliant on being a shovel-ready project. So that's what I have to talk about next. So the next slide is these are the 3 primary phases of design. So in that schematic design, it's big picture. It's a 20% document set. We start thinking through, we confirm the sizes, we start looking into the massing, start looking at the general systems that you'll be putting into there. That takes anywhere between 10 to 12 weeks. Design development is a 60% document set. It gets into more of the details of design. We start really looking at like your casework. How does it actually function? Where are we putting our lights? What kind of lights are we putting in there? A lot of details in that one. So that one is about 12 to 14 weeks. And then construction documents, that's actually like drawing the quote unquote blueprints. And that would be your final deliverable at the end. That's your bidding documents that you could go out to bid with. That phase, again, typically takes 12 to 14 weeks. I always say these are asterisks because these are estimates. We will go as fast or as slow as we need to go. But at the end of that CD phase, you'd have a shovel-ready project. So the next thing that people often ask is, are there any critical path items that we need to do? So if we are moving forward, there are a couple critical path items you would need. And the first and foremost is site selection. We would need our site selection right away so we can confirm our setbacks, confirm our building sizes, make sure that we meet our zoning and our ordinances. We would have to get a survey done to understand how it truly functions, where are the, where the highs and the lows, and make sure that we truly understand how this would come together. We would get our geotechnical studies, so those are our borings. Our borings will inform us how we have to design our footings and foundations. It would help us with our stormwater management. And then also it might tell us that we might want to shift the building. For example, if there was really poor soils in an area and we had the ability to shift the building down 50, 100 feet, that might help us save some money. So those 3 items are incredibly critical, and we'd want those done in the schematic design phase. If you do not own the property yet, we ask that you own the property at some point, typically by the end of construction documents, if not earlier, because obviously if you're doing a survey or geotech, any of those things, you're putting money into a project. So we just want to make sure that you own the property. So again, just kind of thinking through, like if you were to do to the construction or shovel ready project, this was the overall budget of how things laid out. And if you click it one more time, these are the 5 items that would be that we'd have to pay for in order to get to that shovel ready project. So you'd pay for the schematic design, design development and construction documents. And then, like I said, we'd pay for that site survey and we pay for that geotech right away. So if we were to move forward with either the single station or the 2 station scenario, that's what we would be looking at in terms of fees to get us to that shovel ready project. All right, so funding considerations. There's a lot here tonight. There are 3 primary ways that our projects tend to get funded. One would be a referendum, one would be a USDA, either loan or grant, and then one would be a CDBG grant, which we'll talk about. So regardless of if you're doing a referendum support, if we were working on your projects, we would encourage everyone to do public engagement, have listening sessions, just kind of let the community know what they're getting and how they will be impacted by it if they're being impacted by it. If we do referendum, obviously we can help with any graphics or any presentations that might need to happen. But even if you just do it for public engagement, it's always a good idea to keep the public involved in that kind of discussion. Next slide. So the USDA Rural Development Fund does offer a couple different opportunities for our communities. Typically, it breaks out into either loans or grants. So if you do a loan, the reason that our departments do it is because they are often a low interest loan. It's lower than average market rates. And the other side of it is that you can typically do a 40-year loan versus a 20 or 30 with your local bank. If you were to get a grant, that would be considered like an earmark project with a state representative. We have had a lot of successful fire stations over the past couple of years go that direction. So just kind of keeping that in mind, that would be something you might want to look into. If you are considering any sort of USDA loans, I just have a couple caveats here. We will fall under the BABA, Buy America, Build America. So making sure that we are specifying and using products built here in America. At one point, it used to just be infrastructure, so just steel and concrete. Now it's everything that goes into the buildings. There will be some restrictions on building delivery methods, just making sure that the USDA is informed of how we want to build a building, whether it's with a general contractor, or construction administrator, or construction manager. They would have some conversations there with you. It's not a problem. We just want to keep them informed. The overall timeline though can be impacted because there are some additional reportings, which I'll talk about on the next page. And then my understanding, and I am not a USDA expert by any means, but my understanding is that the loan is issued after the construction is complete. So although the USDA is very involved upfront, you have to find a way to fund it until it's actually built, and then they reimburse you for that. Last but not least, it can be a combination of a grant and a loan. So if that is a consideration, let's say you were to get an earmark project for a couple million from your state representative, you could get the rest from a loan. And as soon as, if you do decide to do this right away, we'd get you in touch with the USDA representative so you can start the process to make sure that you would qualify before you get too far down the road. Next one. So this is the application. There are 14 different things, if I recall correctly, that you have to go through. I highlighted the 2 in the yellow because those are the ones that we can typically help you with if you would like our help. Other than that, it's just a lot, to be quite frank, Larry, it falls a lot on you. So that's that. Excellent. Our CDBGs, our Community Block Grant, to be honest, I don't have a lot of experience because most of our communities do not qualify for this. We have had a couple communities here or there that have, but if you do think that we qualify for it and want to look into it, I'm more than happy to help you out with that process, but a lot of our departments just have not been successful with this one. Last but not least, oh yeah, questions, that's it. So that was a lot. Thank you for putting up with all that information at one time.
Okay, Alders, do you have questions?
I do. This is just a general question, but looking at the water town and how it's at on that property, I just would like to know if you have any idea how many acres that actually was, so I could compare it to what we have here available.
You know, I don't recall. I think that they were right around that 2.5, 3 acres.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was a beautiful big station that fit very well
yeah.
on that.
Yeah. The headquarters or the single station scenario were similar in size to that one. That one is somewhere right around that 38,000 square foot mark.
Okay. Okay. That was a beautiful station.
Yeah, and I mean, it has a lot of similarities with, you remember how they had like the primary bays and then the support bay and then the big bay. So a lot of similarities between them.
Yes.
Good. Any other questions? Alder Burnett?
Thanks, Mayor. Have you considered maybe planning for a 2-station scenario, but only building one for now?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Chief can, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, so we have discussed that. The issue that we run into is the first station is going to be overbuilt, and you'd have to go into it, number one, knowing that we're going to overbuild it. What that means is maybe if we're going to build a 2-station scenario, we really only need 31 or 32,000 square feet, but that first one that we build is going to be 40,000 square feet. And the other thing is, what do we do in the interim, right? Because if we're going to go into it and build a first station, knowing that we're going to build a second station, let's say 10 years later, there's going to be that point in between those 10 years where we don't have the service that we're striving for in terms of response times. I think one thing that was interesting in Joe, I think you actually posed the question in Watertown, because they're going through that same situation right now. And when asked, Chief Renyon said, no, we should have built 2. And that would have better served the city. But what happens is it comes back to the staffing, and they didn't have the staffing to make that happen at the time. So it has been discussed. It's not something that we're recommending, but it certainly has been discussed and we've looked into it.
Follow up. I was more looking at building the one and then using this one here as a satellite until we get extra funds.
Yeah,
to fund the satellite one. That
Yeah,
way
so-
we'd still have 2, so you wouldn't have to overbuild that first one.
Right, and I guess I understand that, but we're talking about putting the headquarters on South Center Street. And we simply can't shift that building to the north side of town. Reason being is that if you actually take a look at some of the response maps, you'll see where the railroad kind of comes through town. And the vast majority of our calls are actually on the south side. So we're talking, I would just guesstimate somewhere between 60 and 70% of the calls are going to be on the south side of town. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to take the headquarters station with the extra staffing and put it on the north side, when it really should be, those resources should be on the south side.
But if you build the headquarters station where the old city garage was,
right,
that would be on the south side of town.
That would be on the south side, yes, but we wouldn't, again, it wouldn't make a lot of sense to build that facility and then keep this one running. Does that kind of make sense? I mean, they're very close together. We're not going to improve response times. I mean, we're probably a mile apart where we really should be spread out. We really need something on the north side too. So, I mean, I know building 2 is it brings a lot of, not bad issues, but a lot of extra work and a lot of consideration making that transition. But again, it's been discussed for decades. I think everybody's known that this is something that we should probably consider. In my eyes, I guess, although it's a significant sum of money, it's going to be significantly cheaper to do them together and do them earlier than to do one now and then to do another one 10 years from now when who knows what the price is going to be. It's obviously going to go up. So. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions or comments about facilities? President Younts.
After going on that tour to the two fire departments, there's a drastic difference between Watertown and Jackson. Jackson, they basically ran out of money.
Yeah.
And it showed. I mean, I felt sorry for them there because they had to cut on their doors, they had to cut on their furniture. They're sitting on metal stools. They have their dinner. I mean, and he kept on saying, well, we got to cut this, we got to cut that. And I mean, it was just, it's one of those things that if you're going to build, we got to build it right the first time instead of coming back and trying to patch up what's been done. So looking at it, I don't want to spend any more than anybody else does, but once you've gone through these fire departments and understand how they operate and how they function, and it's just amazing that it comes down to basically, I feel we need two stations, one on the south and maybe basically a satellite on the north side. It really makes sense in the long run. Thank you.
Alder Furry?
You probably answered this already with the construction plans or not. Is there anything in the high level overview now, or is it just in the buffer, like having that main conference room be like the incident response center or those fast exit doors? Is that stuff that's there at a high level now, or is that all coming with the detail?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So part of the reason that you have the design contingency is if we were to change our mind and say, hey, we want to do the doors is a great example because the doors can swing a project. So if we were to say, we talked already and they decided they go with this door, we have that contingency in there to help us to buffer it. One thing I didn't mention and I should have done was at the end of each of those phases, that SD 20% set, DD 60%, and at the end, we can do an estimate at each one of those to make sure that we're still tracking in the right direction. And if anything has changed, we can obviously adjust. But yeah, so I would expect, I believe we had conversations about your door type already, so we put that number in there. And then we also, assume that your conference room and your training room would also be used as that backup EOC potentially. And that was one of the reasons too, if you look at the plans, there's rather large IT closets downstairs because we fully anticipate the city having more there in terms of IT.
Alder Zopp?
So I think I agree. We probably need a two station scenario, but I'm gonna warn you, I can't sell where you put that second station. You have put your 2-minute response and your 4-minute response for farm fields and industrial park and where our industrial park's gonna grow. And you have neglected that our response time to the high school and everybody around the high school is gonna be worse off than what it is right now. That's a really populous area. So I can't sell that station up there. We got to figure that out. I can sell two stations, but I can't. If somebody sees this map and be like, why am I paying tax dollars to get better response times for farm fields? I can't do it. I'll be honest with you. But if you move that closer and you can recapture a better response time for the high school, yeah, I can sell that. So just kind of feedback, I can't sell a station. I don't care if it's our land. People are going to look at you guys are crazy. You spent all this money for better response time for farm fields and industrial park. Anyway, that's 2 cents. We got to move it in a little bit.
I guess just to comment on that. So we did run other scenarios. The reason that we came back and selected this one is because the last time we were here, there seemed to be, obviously there was no vote, but there seemed to be an idea that we would like to utilize city properties. That being said, I asked Laura to run a couple other sites. So we talked about the East Industrial site that's over by El Guacamole. That one is far from perfect. It does have good numbers. The other one that's interesting is actually on Industrial, right in front of the old, which would be Bird's Eye, the cold or the factory there. And so that's one that, again, we don't know if it's for sale, but it's a nice large property. It's better located, has better, better access both to the east and west. And it would be better suited, I think, than the one that we actually ran the numbers on for the report. And so there's flexibility in that also.
Good.
But again, we kind of wanted to bring and present what we felt like council had desired after the last meeting. So
Was there any look at things around Cycle Drive?
is that far south?
Well,
So-
I'm trying, my goal is, I don't want the high school neighborhood to suffer.
Right. And so the unfortunate fact of the matter is that the further south we go and the further east we go, we're going to end up with the exact same problem over by the lake.
Oh, gotcha.
And so that dark green color simply shifts east and west. And so again, when we talk about it, not predicting the future, but 30, 40 years from now, let's say Beaver Dam continues to grow. We know it's not going to grow in the direction of the lake.
No, it's
we know it's going to go
probably going to go
right?
to east. It's going to
exactly.
go
It's going to
not
go
north.
It's going to go east.
Yeah,
And
we're kind of
so
boxed in.
in
by-
that scenario, that opens it up if we have to continue to grow. That's a perfect placement for another station down the road. But again, right now, just shifting it to the east and shifting to the south simply just opens up other areas of the city for longer response time. So, I mean, it's something that we're aware of. But if we're if the ultimate goal is to comply with NFPA 1710 and ensure that we have that exact 4-minute response time throughout the city, I mean, we've talked about it. We would need 3 or 4 fire stations to make that happen. I think everybody here agrees that we don't have the resources to make that happen right now. So.
If I could too.
Sure.
Points in there too. So, one, as you're looking at the report, thank you for looking at it. There is a large appendix. It's really huge, so it did not get printed. So I think Chief has that as a PDF that you can take it back. It's hundreds of pages. So check that out because it's got all the response times. And then 2, that is part of the reason that we kept that satellite station so generic in terms of the site, because satellite stations are fortunate that they are a lot smaller. So if we had a smaller piece of property, we could put it around and, adjust the concept plan to fit the perfect site wherever you do decide to go.
Thank you.
Alder Wild.
Yes, I guess I'm one of the ones that thinks the one station is a better option. And one of the reasons I think I definitely think we need one. I think that current fire station is absolutely dangerous. I don't know how they even get out of there on a call without killing each other. But when you look at the population of Beaver Dam 20 years ago, it was 16,000 plus. 20 years later, it was still not 17,000. So we have not had growth. We're not bringing in the kind of industry that brings in tons of people. And with all the small communities around here, people aren't going to move here to work. First of all, we don't have the houses. Last week, we had 44 houses for sale in the whole city. So we're not building houses for them. So where are they going to live? They're going to live in these other little towns. So we're not bringing in the tax base we need to help pay for this. And I saw in here somewhere that it said 40-year loans and that we could apply for these grants and so on, but there's a lot of competition for them. If we're going for 2 stations and the amount of money that's going to be, we're going to be in a lot more competition than we might be going for grants for a smaller amount of money for 1 station, which is still going to be expensive. But I think putting that on our citizens, when you figure, I know there's industries paying taxes, but when you come right down to how many actual people will be paying out of 16 or 17,000, I think that's going to be a pretty big burden. It's probably going to stretch us to 40 years. And by the time you do 40 years, your station's obsolete. So just some thoughts.
Alder Burnett.
Yeah, I have a real dumb question for. When I start to evaluate this, well, wait, before I make my dumb question. I thought the tour and the review and everything was really great. It helped with the perspective to see what other communities do, so. But when I started going through your stuff, and when I see the words response time. And then I look on the detail of response times, and we're talking fire stations, but there's 5 times more EMS calls than fire calls. So I asked myself, why are we building fire stations when we want emergency stations?
Yeah.
And it's like, and I'm sure most communities are doing this, the combination of fire and EMS. I mean, I understand that, but I guess I have to ask the question, why? I mean, it is a different skill set. And I understand originally the combination made sense from a cost savings. But if we have to spend a lot of money to duplicate that with high-end people who are trained both ways, I think, why? You know, and you know, I know that's the way it used to be in the old days. So anyway, that's the dumb question.
It's actually not a dumb question, and I'm glad you brought it up. So again, if you look in the appendix, I don't think that we put this in the report just because we didn't, but if you look in the appendix, one of the things we did do is we broke down your calls. So from that 2022 to 2024, we ran we looked at it as calls in general. And then we looked at it in terms of what were just your EMS calls and what were your fire calls to see if there was any patterns. So for example, if your fire was always in one area and your EMS was always in the other, then it might make sense to have an EMS only station or a fire only station someplace. But what we found with your particular community is that they were really intermixed and they were kind of all over the place and there was no discernible patterns. All of the hot zones or the heat areas of both fire and EMS individually were the exact same spots. So I'm going to just leave that there and I want Chief to talk about timing.
So, not a dumb question.
No.
It simply isn't, because again, this is something that we do every day. And so we know the industry and how things work. So why do we have a fire department and why do we do things the way that we do? You're correct, right? We started out as a fire department and that's all we did. But as time went on and as the demand increased and there was nobody else to respond, the emergency medical services was actually transferred from private providers in town. I think we talked about this if you guys were on the tour. It used to actually be the funeral homes who would show up with a hearse and, you know, you roll the dice. It probably doesn't make you feel good getting in the back of one of those, but and then we took that over. There are still communities, to your point, that do things the way that you're talking about. They have an ambulance service or they have an ambulance service that is under the direction of the fire department, where they simply have EMS providers and then they have firefighters. Typically, not always, but typically when we see this happen, it's larger departments, it's larger cities that have the means to make that happen. I would love to be able to have enough people to staff a fire truck and staff an ambulance separately. If that's the case, we can certainly go out and hire paramedics onlys and then firefighters only. But the reality is, in order for me to do that, I need significantly more people. What we have now doesn't work. All of our people are cross-staffed. All of our full-time, employees are both firefighters and they're paramedics. And so we cross-staff everything. We simply don't have the resources to come in and say, you two are on the ambulance, on the engine, you three are on the truck. It takes significantly more people to operate a fire department that way. And again, we simply don't have the resources to do it. So what we talk about in the way that we operate right now is we cross-staff. If a fire call comes in, we take people off the ambulance and they have to operate the fire apparatus. The same thing would happen if we would move into this 2-station scenario. We would continue to operate that way. Specifically on the north side, there would be 3 people as proposed. During a fire call, they're going to staff a fire apparatus. During an ambulance call, the fire apparatus will be taken out of service and we will staff the ambulance. At the end of the day, it's about dollars and cents and what we can afford. And the way that we operate is the best way that we can afford to operate. Again, if we have more resources and there's more funding available, I'll go out and I'll find you as many firefighter paramedics as you want. We'll train them, we'll get them going, but this is the way that we have to operate due to the constraints we have. So.
Yeah, well, thanks for that explanation. I guess the other thing in your report that relates to the staffing issue is your transport stuff.
Mhm.
And, I was surprised that we do kind of voluntary transports, or you did. And then the impact of that on your staffing,
Mhm.
is that you were talking in here in the report about the staffing issues, I mean, calling people back in and all that for transports, which
Yes.
I don't even know if we would cover our costs.
Yeah, and again, there was a lot of discussion, and 10, 15 years ago, it was a big topic in the Wisconsin Fire Service. Everybody thought that it was a way to make money, but at the end of the day, we're burning our people out. Maybe we're breaking even. Yeah, I guess just so we're clear, we still do some transports. We do not use on-duty staff. The only time we use on-duty staff is if there's an immediate life threat, or something else that's very significant that could become a life threat. So if somebody here has a heart attack and they're at the hospital and you need to get to a cath lab, we prefer to fly you, right? That's gonna be the quickest, but oftentimes that's not possible. Our crew will actually load you up and we'll take you to the cath lab. Those are the instances we're talking about. That's the overwhelming majority of the inter-facility transports we do now, so.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Okay, Alders, any other questions about the facilities report? Because then I believe we're also going to hear about the staffing recommendations, correct?
Yeah, I have a little bit.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. And while the chief is getting prepared here, I would, first of all, I'd like to welcome, we have the members of our Police and Fire Commission who, you may not recognize them or know them, but they serve the city through their regular meetings, overseeing the police and fire departments. And actually, Thea, would you mind just introducing the members to the Council of the Police and Fire Commission? I'm not sure how many of them are familiar with this group. So, and thank you for being here. And we appreciate they have been in the thick of all of this for many, many months. So,
All right, I don't have a fancy PowerPoint to present. A lot of the information that was included in the staffing report, I would say the first half to 2/3 of the actual report. Hopefully it gave you guys some background information, not just on how we operate, but other fire departments in Wisconsin operate. Again, if you have questions, don't be afraid to ask as we go through it. But you'll see, again, especially in the beginning of the report, you'll see a lot of the same information. So the current station information, the single station, the two station models, that's all information that we just went over. I don't think we need to rehash all of that. But really, I guess as we go through the report, there's a couple of things that I would like to point out. Joe just mentioned one of them. And this relates to staffing and whether we end up with two stations or one station. But last year we had to call in off-duty staff 337 times. I don't know anybody that operates a business where in order to do your job, you have to call in off-duty people to get your job done on a daily basis. It's highly unusual. And to be frank, the only reason that it works and the only reason that the wheels don't fall off the thing is because of the people standing behind me. They give up their days off, they give up their time with their family, and they come in and they make sure that when that happens, that those calls are taken care of. I will say, since the referendum, that number has significantly declined. You'll see that in 2020, we had 479 callbacks. So it has decreased with the full-time staffing. I would expect that, if we would move forward with the project and increase staffing more, that would continue to decline. We're talking about small savings when that happens. If we had the same decline as we did last time, it would be roughly $20,000 in savings. But again, that's something that we do that I think a lot of the public doesn't understand because they don't see it. Let's see here. Did you guys have any questions as we went through? I was able to speak to quite a few fire chiefs from similar communities that operate like us, similar call volumes, and just give you an idea of how they are staffing. I don't know if you guys found that useful or if there were questions regarding that. But that was something that I took upon myself to do, that I learned some stuff about some of the other departments, but I just thought it was a useful comparison so you could see again, that everybody does things differently, and it's very dependent upon the community and what the community needs and desires are. Again, Laura covered a lot of this. We'll get to the end here. And so she covered a lot of the funding options. Really what we were left with then, specifically if we go to 2 fire stations, what we were left with is how are we actually going to staff those stations, as we just talked about. Originally, I came up with 10 or 12 different options, and the further that we talked about it and refined it, obviously that was just too many. And in my head, it came down to 3 different scenarios, and that's what's presented. The first scenario, while it's not NFPA compliant, what it would do is it would staff a fire apparatus at each station if we had 2, and it would staff an ambulance. To your point, to reduce that need to cross staff and allow the best response operations. That would require us to add 12 additional personnel. Again, that's a significant jump. I believe I put the cost estimate at about $1.1 million to make that happen. And again, that's the initial cost. As the department grows and ages and salaries go up and people go up steps in the scale, that would increase. But that would be the cost. Option 2 is to basically remain operating the way that we do today, with paid on-call staff and full-time, and that would be adding 6 personnel. This is the absolute minimum that it would take to operate a second fire station. We would have an engine and an ambulance staffed on the south side, and then that north side fire station would be cross-staffed. So we would be able to either put an ambulance or a fire truck into operation. Depending on staffing, if there's not vacation or people aren't sick or at training, that could change. We could actually have days where we have, let's say, 4 people, maybe even days where we have 5 from time to time, and we could actually staff both, but it wouldn't be dependable and it wouldn't be every day. Third option is to do nothing. If we do nothing, we simply can't operate 2 fire stations. And with the call volume that we have in the last several years, with the increase in the call volume, I don't know how long, even if we have 1 fire station, that we can continue to operate with the staff that we have. To put it into context, we're actually pre-referendum, so pre-2020, we're actually running more calls per full-time employee today than we were simply 5 years ago. So there's been a dramatic increase in that time. So the more I looked at it, and this has kind of been my discussion with anyone that wanted to talk to me about it, the more I looked at it, the easiest solution for the fire department and operation wise is to simply build a new fire station and move, because we don't have to change anything. But then I look at the growth in the city. I look at the extended response times that we have specifically to the north side. We had a fatal fire on the north side of town in January of last year. And when you look at that and you're the one responding, you realize this does take a long time to get to the north side of town. And so the more I just looked at it, the more I thought about it, transitioning to 2 stations, it's not cheaper and it's not easier for the fire department, but it's going to be best what's for the fire department long-term, and it's going to be best what's best for Beaver Dam long-term in terms of fire and emergency medical services. And so that's where my recommendation came from. Again, I'm looking long-term and trying to do it in a way that is sustainable and gives us the opportunity for growth as the demand rises. So if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions about the staffing portion.
I have a question.
Alder Burnett?
In your contact with other fire chiefs and other communities, have you come across anybody who built 2 and regretted it?
I can't say that I have. I mean, I've talked to a couple that have had the opposite experience, right? Where they've built one and said they should have done two. But no. I have not. I'm not aware of anybody that has made the transition from 2 to 1, for the matter of fact. It's just not something that you see happen.
Yeah, I mean, because that is a possibility. But
No, it absolutely is. We're just, I guess we're at a unique spot where, we're kind of teetering on which way we should go and what's going to be the best. And I guess there's not a whole lot of other communities that I'm aware of that are at 1 and possibly making the transition to 2. Plenty of other departments out there and communities that are going from 3 to 4, 4 to 5. But you don't see a whole lot of, I guess, what you just asked. So
I have another unrelated question to that first one.
Yep.
And you triggered it when you were talking about EMS calls and stuff. And I really never thought about this before, but does the fire department make money on EMS calls?
do we make money? No. So according to Medicare, it costs us roughly $1,400 per ambulance call. We certainly do not bring that back in. Right now, if I'm just going to spitball a number, I'd say we're probably 45% revenue on that. So I'd have to go back and look, but I think last year we maybe brought in $1 to $1.1 million in EMS revenue. We bring in a significant amount of revenue. That's not to say that we're making money, but we're simply trying to recoup costs, and that money gets folded back into the general fund and obviously trickles back as part of our budget every year.
So like on the, I forget the number, 2,800 of EMS calls. At say roughly $700 or something, that's money that you take in.
So we don't bill every call. So if we don't transport or if we don't treat false alarms, again, we could go down a long list of reasons that the people call us. Sometimes it doesn't warrant a bill. So if we go on 2,800 calls, maybe we bill 2,300, 2,400. And depending on what the payer type is, that's where, we can talk about revenue. Unfortunately, in Beaver Dam, I think last year we were 11 or 12% of our residents that we transported had commercial insurance. So that's very low. The majority are Medicare, Medicaid. We have quite a few that are in managed care plans. But again, if we're lucky on a Medicare, Medicaid call, we're going to bring back in $400, maybe $500 on that call. The remaining, the remaining bit of the bill, the other $800 that we charge, has to be written off. We cannot collect. So it's just a loss.
No, thank you. I mean, the only reason I'm bringing it up is that's a community question.
Yeah.
I mean, when, if we announce a $25 million project, they're going to say, why?
Mhm.
But thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions, Alder? Yes, President Yates.
Watertown, they built theirs more or less on the south side, was it?
Yes.
What is their response side to the north side?
Oh boy, question I didn't think I was gonna
Did they say something about 8 minutes? They said,
yeah.
or 6 minutes, 8 minutes?
Yeah, it's
They were
on the
just gonna
deal.
live with it?
Yes. And that's where unfortunately, in their situation, the majority of their call volumes on the north side of town. It's kind of different from, right, Beaver Dam, we're on the south. But that's where, and I can't go into details because I wasn't privy to the conversations, but that's where the decision was made. And so I can't tell you, but I mean, it's possible that maybe their response time isn't as good as it was before with their station downtown. But it was significantly, I don't want to say out of place, but it was put in a position where, they might need a second fire station down the road.
I put it to a scenario as if your house is going up, if the fireman can get either in 4 minutes or 8 minutes, that fire just doubled.
Even
every minute it doubles. So your house is in 8 minutes, it's gonna be gone pretty much.
And to your point, there's studies out there that, again, 40 or 50 years ago when a fire occurred, the majority of the materials in everybody's houses was natural. There wasn't a lot of synthetics in there. And so you could have a fire that would free burn for 12 to 15 minutes, let's say. where it wouldn't flash over, it wouldn't get, the environment wouldn't be bad enough where if you stood up, you would inhale those toxic fumes and you'd just be done at that point. Now from that 14, 15 minutes, now you're down to probably 2 to 4. It's just the reality. The fires burn significantly hotter, significantly faster, and you have less time to get out. That's where, when we talk about that 4-minute response time, that's why it's important.
It makes a difference when you're standing there watching a fire go. Is it your house or is it your neighbor's house going up? Put that in your mind and see how fast you want to pay for it.
Okay, are there any other questions? We do have time on the agenda for discussion. And I'm interested in having council members express their opinions. But before we get to the actual discussion, I want to make sure that if you have any questions, you can get those answered while we still have the experts here. So any other questions? Okay, thank you, Chief, and I think thank you, Laura, who already, thank you very much. Now we're going to move on to the city administrator's report.
Thank you. I have 2 or 3 things here. I wanted to let the city council know that the human resource specialists and I have met with the city's personnel attorney today. We did some introductions, and we expect to have a significant number of projects going forward in the HR field over the next 6 months to a year. So expect to be hearing more about HR issues and policies. We started as a staff, started working on the draft development agreement for Apadan with the hopes of having something to you in March for you to consider. And then number 3, our city clerk has recently hired a new deputy city clerk, Cheryl Laurie, thank you.
She's old but new again.
Okay.
She'll be returning to the city.
And she's starting March 2nd. So feel free to stop down to the city clerk's office and congratulate her on her new role. And so that's all I have for you this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And clerk, do we have any communications?
There are none this evening.
Very good. Then next up is the approval of the bills between January 30th and February 12th in the amount of $6,585,391.61. Can I get a motion? Alder Zopp.
I'll make a motion to approve the bills as presented.
Thank you. And a second, Alder.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving the bills, so signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any? So the bills have passed. Very good. Next up are ordinances.
Ordinance number 3-2026, an ordinance rezoning parcel number 206-1114-0421-044, located at 130 East Maple Avenue from light manufacturing district to multiple family residential district. This is a first and second reading.
And because this is a first and second reading, we require public hearing. So at this time, I would like to call forward anyone who would like to speak to this rezoning. So if there's anyone either in person or online who would like to speak, I think Francois, I think this would be your time to speak. And then if there's anyone else after Francois speaks.
Musonera. And so I am a resident of Beaver Dam, and I work here at the high school as a Spanish teacher. Some of you might know me. Tonight, I am here to ask the council for the opportunity to change 130 East Maple Avenue building into a residential house. I am speaking on behalf of my sister, Grace Vanamwana, and I am holding a power of attorney from her. She would like to be here tonight, but she was not able to So this building used to be a church. Then they turned it into a daycare center. And when it was put on the market last year, last summer, the description on the website said that there was some possibility it could be changed into a multiple family residential house. I would like to share a copy with you of what is said on. So what I just gave you is what it said on the website. So when my sister saw this, she was excited for the opportunity to find a place she could call her own home. At first, she thought she would use that property as a single family home, obviously, if the city allowed her to do so. And then she also thought it would be a good idea to live on one side and one side of that property and rent out the other side. And the property is a great size for that. So, and whether she finds a tenant or not, she would like to live there as her own home. Ever since we purchased that property, so we have been looking for somebody with a state license to run a daycare center. But we have not been successful yet. So now we are worried that the unoccupied property might be home for rats and other animals or be dilapidated. And another worry is that no insurance company wants to ensure that commercial property that has not been used for a long time. They tell us that a residential house would be very quick to insure. So I have spoken with some companies such as American Family Insurance and State Farm Insurance, and they all say the same thing. Before we made the request to rezone this property, we talked to some people in the neighborhood to see if they would, if they thought of anything that could be an obstacle to our request. And many of them actually encouraged us to go ahead and apply, and adding that it would be good to have neighbors in that corner. So they told us about the city having just rezoned an old funeral home nearby, and an old theater building surrounded by businesses, but still rezoned into a single residential home. So we can tell that the property is very close to a power plant, but we don't see any problem living there, since for many years people were raised there when it was a daycare center. We also think from our perspective that rezoning that place would prevent the increase of traffic and or noise some businesses might bring to the area if ever rented to a business. If the city doesn't think multiple family property is possible, we would request a single family. So that's what I had to say. If there are any questions, I would be happy to answer. Thank you.
Alder Bonnet?
Yeah, I'm confused a bit because it says multifamily.
Mhm.
You want multifamily or single family?
I want a multi-family, but if for any reason it's not possible, then we can ask for a single family.
So, and that's okay in the zone? Yeah, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Alder Zop?
So we have a two-family zoning ordinance as well. So I'm confused why you're asking for a multifamily when you only want a two-family. So I'm concerned that if we were to give you a multifamily, more than two would be in this building. So are you aware of the two-family? We have a two-family. So we have single family, two-family, multifamily. Multifamily is generally for apartment complexes that 4, 6, 8 residencies. Two-family is exactly what it says. Two families, a duplex. So you're asking for a
two-family
for a duplex.
Yes.
I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Okay. Yeah, it's a
I'm
two-family.
letting you know that there is single family, two-family. I'm looking at the city website right now. Two-family, single family, multifamily. Unless Larry or some, I'm not misreading this, right? Like I'm in a two-family zone.
You are,
Yeah.
there is a two-family zone. You'll want to make sure that there's two family around the site, or you'll end up with a situation of spot zoning.
And is that where, that's a situation they're in, is that it'd be spot zoning?
I truly can't speak to that.
That's correct. So it's bordered by multifamily on the east.
Right.
And then it's light manufacturing on the west.
So to avoid spot
So
zone.
you'd have a spot zone of two family.
Okay, so even a single family would be the same instance, so we really should be.
Single family is allowed in the multifamily, two families allowed in the multifamily.
Okay, so it should be multifamily, like if we're to avoid spot zoning.
Correct.
Correct. Sorry for the side, so essentially, if we wanted to not have spot zoning, it would be multifamily and, okay. Which is your current request. All right, thank you for the clarification.
Very good. Alder Gansky?
I'm not sure who this is a question for. This is Todd or Larry. Do we have other ordinances that would prevent like a building from being subdivided like to where it was uninhabitable almost, or where there wasn't enough square footage for each dwelling?
I'm sure there are standards as far as the size of a dwelling unit. If you have a two-family or a duplex, you'd need fire codes to separate the one unit from another, which is usually, I've got a room of fire department staff, but I think the only thing, it would be an extra level of drywall to separate and create more of a fire barrier between the two units, but I'm not in that trade, so.
John Moosehanner's online. John, are you able to unmute?
Can you hear me?
Yep, we got
John
you
from
now.
Inspector?
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, so with a two-family, there are code requirements, basically a firewall would separate them. If we were going to a 3-unit or a multifamily building, then we'd be looking at sprinklers and whatnot. I think the main point of this request was to keep it multifamily just because in other surrounding areas, it is multifamily, so it would kind of coincide with that and not be a spot zone. And being that it's zone multifamily, you can have a single or 2-family in there. If you wanted to try to do a 3-family, you could, and then it would be the multifamily zoning. But that's a whole nother level of codes and expense.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions? Alder's up.
So thank you for the coming to us. I mean, I'd be comfortable, especially hearing from our city building inspector. I mean, I'm comfortable with your petition. So, yeah, thank you.
Okay, are there any other comments or are we ready to take a motion?
Just a quick, I mean, this was discussed at Plan Commission on our last month and it passed unanimously. So, I mean, I think we were all good with it at Plan Commission. Yeah, thanks for that. Okay, can I get a motion? Oh, thank you, Mr. Musanera.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Alder Gansky,
Motion to approve as presented.
very good. In a second, Alder Burnett.
Second.
And I believe for an ordinance, we need a voice vote or roll call vote.
Bierman,
Aye.
Burnett,
Aye.
Burnett,
Aye.
Hurry,
Aye.
Fisher,
Aye.
Flaherty,
Aye.
Gansky,
Aye.
Keel,
Aye.
Perkins,
The,
he was on there.
Yep.
Wild,
Aye.
Yads,
Aye.
Zap.
Aye.
the motion passes. Congratulations, Mr. Musanera. Good luck with the remodel. Next up, we have resolutions.
Resolution number 6-2026, the resolution authorizing a professional services agreement for the street and park tree inventory.
And let's see, Joe, were you gonna speak to this or? Okay, or Todd, I'll let you guys.
We can
decide.
tag team this one, so I'll introduce it. Joe can kind of fill in the blanks, but the city applied for and was awarded a urban forestry grant through the DNR. It's a $25,000 grant. It pays 50% of a project. What we're looking to do is inventory our city trees. That equates to the number that John had was 6,500 trees. So what you're looking at tonight is the agreement for Blue Stem Forestry to help us out with that inventory, put it into electronic format so that we can get it into GIS as an asset management feature. The proposal's for $55,000. Again, the grant covers $25,000 of that, with the remainder coming out of CIP.
Very good. Mr. Kern, you want to add anything?
So this is obviously funded half by a grant. This is gonna help us keep track of trees, tree health, tree maintenance, as well as we've all seen the issues we've had with the emerald ash borer. Hopefully we don't, but if we ever have anything like that, it's gonna help us identify areas of the community that may be high in one species, so we can hopefully mitigate any issue like this in the future. Obviously, it's one of those things that this is gonna give us a breakdown, location, species, and it's going to also help us in the future look for new planting as well as cycling in some different species to continue with diversification so we don't have any monoculture areas within the community.
Excuse me, any questions for either Joe or Todd? Okay, thank you, sir. Then can I get a motion? Alder Bonnet? Thank you. And a second, Alder Wild?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Any discussion? I believe was this in front of ops this evening?
This went to ops last
Yep,
meeting
okay.
and passed unanimously.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the roll.
Bonnet,
Aye.
Burnett,
Aye.
Paris,
Aye.
Fisher,
Aye.
Flaherty,
Aye.
Gansky,
Aye.
Keel,
Aye.
Perkins, Wild,
Aye.
Yads,
Aye.
Zap,
Aye.
Bierman.
Aye.
And the resolution passes. Next up,
Resolution number 7-2026, a resolution authorizing the agreement between the Beaverland Muskies, Inc. and the City of Beaver Dam for the 2026 season.
and I don't know if we need questions answered. It's the same agreement that we approved last year. It's in your packet. Are there any questions that anyone has before we get a motion on this? Okay, then can I get a motion? Alder Furry?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Thank you. And a second, Alder.
I'll second.
Thank you, Alder Keel. Discussion, comments? I can say the Muskies have agreed to add an additional show this year that they are going to be performing at the new and revived Beaver Fest on Friday, July 9th. So there's an additional performance. Any other questions or comments? Then I think we're ready to vote.
Burnett,
Aye.
Paris,
Aye.
Fisher,
Aye.
Flaherty,
Aye.
Gansky,
Aye.
Keel,
Aye.
Perkins, Wild,
Aye.
Yads,
Aye.
Zap,
Aye.
Bierman,
Aye.
Burnett.
Aye.
So the resolution carries. Next up,
Resolution number 8-2026, a resolution granting a secondhand dealer license to Dean Stricker doing business as the Penny Shack.
and I know this came before the admin committee this evening. Alder Zopp, do you want to fill us in?
Sure. It's going to, they'll be moving into the place that used to sell the dresses, at the corner of Spring and Front Street. They will be dealing in the sell and exchange of pennies. So if you need pennies, I don't know, but they will soon tell you what they're worth, and this is the place to go. So we did approve it in admin tonight. So, and Chief also approved of it as well, Chief Kreitzinger.
Okay, so discussion, questions. I have some questions, but there is no one here I think that could answer them. So any questions about this dealer license, the secondhand dealer license? Okay, then seeing none. Oh, we need a motion. Alder Zopp.
I'll make a motion to approve the secondhand license for Penny Shack.
Thank you. And a second.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Alder Yads. And now we are ready to vote.
Paris,
Aye.
Fisher,
Aye.
Flaherty,
Aye.
Gansky,
Aye.
Keel,
Aye.
Perkins, Wild,
Aye.
Yads,
Aye.
Zap,
Aye.
Bierman,
Aye.
Burnett,
Aye.
Burnett.
Aye.
So the resolution carries. So we look forward to that new business right there on the corner with curiosity. Alder Wild.
Any idea when that's gonna open? Okay,
No.
thank you.
Yeah.
Did they tell you when? No idea. Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Okay.
Penny for your thoughts, Chief.
Okay, and finally, last item on the agenda is discussion and possible action regarding the Fire Street facility study and facility and staffing recommendations presented earlier. So this is the opportunity for alders to weigh in, to give this maybe some preliminary opinions or to guide the discussion. potentially make a motion, but not necessarily.
Mayor, can I just add, what we're really looking for at this point, is two main things. And the third will kind of be dictated by your guys' direction. The first is, one or two fire stations. We're at a point where we've done everything we can up to this point without knowing that, if we're gonna go with one or two. And then the other would be locations. Again, we can't do any of the work until we know how many fire stations and where we would like to see them. Direction from you tonight would preferably include those two components, so we can get back to work and start bringing you some product forward that would include, depending on what we would decide. If we decide to go with one, we can start looking at acquiring the properties. We can start working with Five Bugles to put a proposal together for that schematic design and the soil testing, so we can actually understand if what we are designing can be located on these properties. So those are the main components I think Larry has.
I just wanted to add that if there was a preferred site that was not owned by the city, that the city council should plan to go into closed session to provide direction to staff on how much you're willing to offer for a lot or which lots you would prefer within the city. We shouldn't discuss specific locations tonight in front of the public. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chief. So I guess the question is, we can discuss this as much as you would like, but the question in my mind is whether council feels that they're adequately prepared to at least address the first question, which is 1 versus 2 stations. So perhaps maybe some discussion first, and then if everyone is feeling comfortable with that discussion, perhaps we can get a motion to that effect. Would someone like to start off the discussion? Or perhaps you're not feeling ready to make that decision, in which case, again, the motion would reflect that, but perhaps we should start off with some discussion. Alder Burnett.
I think the 2 station would serve the city of Beaver Dam better than the 1 station, seeing as though the city of Beaver Dam is such an odd shape. It's so long and narrow, and eventually it's gonna grow out east. But right now it's growing to the north and it's getting longer. So I'm in favor of the 2 station.
Alder Bierman.
I too am in favor to the 2 stations, as we are growing. We need that response time, as President Yuds had said. So yes, 2.
I would agree as well. I don't see our size, our population going down, and we want everybody to have that response time. So I agree with 2.
Alder Gansky, you wanted to?
Yeah, I agree with everyone so far. I think we should go with 2. As a representative of North Side District, I think we've been underserved by the current setup for a long time. So we probably should have gone to 2 a long time ago, but now's our chance to fix it going forward. So I say 2.
Alder Furry.
Yeah, I'm certainly ready to say it needs to be a 2 station plan. Maybe interested in more discussion on locations and what that means for the main station and the satellite, but definitely 2 stations.
Anyone else want to weigh in, or perhaps create a motion? Alder Yads?
I guess I would like more discussion on both locations to make sure we have them both right. I think we got one nailed down pretty good, but the second one, I want to make sure, we got to work all the irons out of it to make sure we don't, rush into something and make a mistake. But, I think one more time around with the location would be okay with me. But I'd like to have 2 locations though.
And it is possible to have a motion simply to approve a 2-station model without including specific locations and worrying about specific locations at a future date. That is appropriate.
or if you know one of the locations is gonna be a city site, giving us that guidance would be helpful.
Alder Burnett?
I really don't have a clear opinion on the sites. The only thing I know is that we better pick the right ones. I mean, that sounds kind of silly, but you know, where we're not landlocked, where there's access, all of the things that the fire people will look at and say they made a good choice or they made a stupid choice. You know, that's the kind of thing that, and I can't answer that right now. I don't know what the best answer is.
Yeah, I think to that point, Alder Yuds mentioned that we have one nailed down. I think I would agree with that on the south side. That's the numbers tell the whole story there. We have seen, again, as we've gone through the GIS, at least 3 suitable sites on the north side, generally in the same area. We can certainly explore to see if there's anything else available in the area, but I think we know the area that it should be in. It's just then at that point picking the specific site. So again, we have actually, now that I say that, we actually have a couple more GIS sites that we selected that just weren't suitable, but the location will tell the story about response times and what we're looking for. So I think if we get direction on the 1 versus 2 tonight, when we come back, we can certainly bring more information on the possibilities of the north side. It's not, to me, this very second, it's not imperative that we identify it perfectly tonight, but it is important that we say 1 or 2, and then we can begin work on actually nailing down a site and bringing back that information for you guys at a later time.
Alder Saab?
I'll just kind of repeat what I said earlier. I'm in favor of 2, but that north site needs to be a lot closer. Again, when you look at what's happening with the high school and that massive residential neighborhood around the high school, they're going to go from a 4-minute response time down to 8. And then I don't know how we justify to everyone over there that you're going to be worse off. That is a huge chunk of the city. I get that we're increasing response time to where, on the south side, that's wonderful. I agree with DPW site being a good site, but I just can't get on board with that north side site. So.
Mayor, may I interject?
Certainly.
It's been a number of years we've been dealing with this problem here. I think it goes back about 30 years. And I've watched as the police or the fire department has done their studies, and I'm very comfortable with where they're at with the 2 station locations, the one on South Center, and I personally think that North Side station is a good idea. The expansion to the north and east will allow good response time up there, so I will make a motion that we give the chief permission to go ahead, figure out what the next steps are in dealing with a 2-station solution to the problem.
Can I get a second to that motion? Alder Gansky?
I'll second that motion.
Very good. Any additional discussion to approving a 2-station path forward? Seeing none, we are ready to vote.
Fisher,
Aye.
Flaherty,
Aye.
Gansky,
Aye.
Keel,
Aye.
Wild. No. Yuds,
Aye.
Saab,
Aye.
Bierman,
Aye.
Bonnet,
Aye.
Burnett,
Aye.
3.
Aye.
And the motion carries. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Alder Burnett,
Motion to adjourn.
second. Everyone, Alder Gansky, thank you. Good night, everyone.